a critical analysis of the Plotagon Summer Festival of 2025. Part 1, Intro and History. Hello, I am Dale Husband, the Honorable Skeptic, and today I want to talk about the Plotagon Summer Festival of 2025, how it nearly became a disaster, and why I will not take part in any future version of it, assuming one even happens. But first, let me give some background. The Plotagon Summer Festival began in 2023 as a 2.5-hour event contained in a single video. The apparent success of this event made its creator push for a more ambitious project in 2024, including several other Plotagonists, including myself, celebrities in Plotagon, the BRYAN, Sawyer Eek, the Plotagon, Burko TV, Arter.Plotagon, JDL, BRYAN, Classic Caillou, and Insferrero. And just like the first event, the second one of 2024 was a massive success. It was much longer, and was divided into several parts that premiered all day on June 10th. Shortly afterwards, the creator of the Plotagon Summer Festival was interviewed by Helena, Plotagon's community manager. It was then that we learned his name was David and saw what he looked like. And about 4 minutes and 45 seconds in, David said, "To be honest, every Plotagon video I do has something to do with the Plotagon Summer Festival. Literally every single video. I don't use Plotagon for something different. I'll get back to this point later because of what I will reveal shortly. Anyway, at the time, many of us in the Plotagon community, including myself, heaped praise on David for his leadership of the project. And we were all looking forward to next year's event. And then something began to happen that was disturbing to many of us. Part 2. Attack of the Mysterious Spammer. So in September of 2024, I was alerted by another Plotagonist, Kieran Fleming, to what a third Plotagonist, Mr. Plot, was doing. Using Plotagon to make de facto child porn. I've already talked about this at length, so if you want, check the video I made about this topic. Soon afterwards, a mysterious person or people began using multiple accounts on YouTube to attack Kieran, calling him a racist for no logical reason. This went on for a while and I assumed Mr. Plot was the spammer in question. The spammer also began attacking me and others associated with Kieran. But a later investigation by yet another Plotagonist, known as Celebrities in Plotagon, exposed the real troll. It was actually someone known as Comedy After Hours. After Comedy was exposed, he deleted his YouTube channel and has never been heard from since. For this effort, Celebrities in Plotagon was hailed by many, including me, as a hero. But the downfall of Comedy After Hours came with a price for all of us. Comedy had collaborated with Insferrero on a movie called Christmas Missing, but it was unfinished and was lost. Also, Comedy had been invited to take part in the Plotagon Summer Festival of 2025, but now that had to be withdrawn. But we were all determined to move on and make up for the loss we suffered. Part 3. The BRYAN quits the Plotagon Summer Festival team. Now, for the record, I was not eager to create and publish this video. And I am well aware that what I reveal may get a lot of hate thrown at me for doing it, but to me, this is simply a matter of telling the truth as I understand it, and being the bearer of bad news shouldn't itself cause me to be scorned. But I feel like I have to reveal to the rest of you why the BRYAN suddenly quit the Plotagon Summer Festival team and ended his friendship with David after collaborating with him for so long. Here's the story. So in April of this year, the BRYAN posted this on his Instagram account, and right before that, he left the chat group in Instagram made to help members of the festival team and participants coordinate their efforts. I asked the BRYAN what had happened. At first, he wouldn't talk about the matter. But soon after that, I got messages from David about what happened. Because BRYAN had blocked David, and so a third person was now needed to talk between them. Of course, I thought what David did to BRYAN was extremely stupid and immature, especially so soon after the uproar over Comedy After Hours. But it was what David said to me later, when I called him out on his dishonorable behavior, that really upset me. That was not the attitude of an ethical person who realized he did wrong and wanted to make things right. A joke is supposed to be funny to everyone involved. Punching down on someone else with it is indeed verbal abuse. It was at this point that any trust or respect I might have had for David evaporated, replaced by resentment. So now, I faced a dilemma. To collaborate with someone, I must have faith in their integrity, and David had just shown me he couldn't be trusted. On the other hand, I had given my word that I would take part in this year's festival, and I knew that my withdrawing from it now would only disrupt things further and hurt others that were eagerly looking forward to the event. So after consulting with BRYAN, he and I agreed that we would bide our time and let the festival proceed as planned. But I also promised him that sooner or later, I would expose what had happened as a matter of principle. I was concerned that if David was willing to backstab BRYAN, he might also hurt others. And now, here's an evidence board. Everything on that evidence board is the result of conversations I had with BRYAN over several weeks. Now I am not going to tell anyone what to believe or disbelieve. What I intend to do for the rest of this video is explore all the evidence for and against what I call the two-faced hypothesis. The fact remains, David Smith is a liar. The matter is, did he lie only once and only to BRYAN, or has he been lying to everyone over several years, including Helena, Plotagon's community manager? So let us proceed with the investigation. Part 4. The case against the two-faced hypothesis. Point 1. Occam's razor. Occam's razor is a means of judging the validity of a case. Basically, the simplest explanation for an event is most likely to be true. So in this case, it is far simpler to assume that David was indeed telling BRYAN a stupid April Fool's joke. But of course, that doesn't justify what David did. Point 2. The personalities of the owners of Plotagon Summer Festival, also known as David Smith, and celebrities in Plotagon, also known as Hassan Johnson, are very different from each other. Usually when someone is using multiple accounts for the purpose of sock puppetry, the personalities of those accounts are quite similar. But the personalities of the two users in question differ in many ways. Hassan is known for using a lot of profanity and talking with others. David does not. And the two seem to have different religious views. As I noted to David himself, it is clear that Hassan is not a Christian like David is. When celebrities in Plotagon was upset about not winning a Oscar this year, David was among those who tried to comfort and reassure him by quoting from the Bible. Not exactly the best thing to do if CIP was not Christian, but that might be expected from a super devout Christian like David seems to be. Also, the two address me very differently. CIP often refers to me as brother. David never did that. And you have already seen how David seems to despise my hardcore liberal and skeptical views. However, Point 3. David went so far as to start a Christian ministry using Plotagon to create and upload at least one sermon on YouTube. Now, what you believe about religion, and how you want to promote your faith, is entirely your business. But professing a religion means you should live strictly according to its teachings. David's backstabbing of BRYAN, as noted earlier, is hypocrisy. It should be noted that David already wiped out his online ministry. Perhaps even he was starting to become self-aware. Point 4. Celebrities and Plotagon actually endorsed a video I made slamming Bible teachings. It's no secret that I am atheist, and have been for about 20 years. I once made a video titled Richard and Diana Talk About Judaism, which depicted the title characters, also atheists, pulling no punches in dealing with how they saw the story in the book of Exodus. That story is the very foundation of Judaism and also, by implication, of Christianity and Islam, because both of those religions also revere Moses as God's lawgiver. So imagine my surprise when someone showed up in the video's chat channel as it was being premiered. Obviously, no Christian would say anything like that. But an atheist would. Point 5. If David was controlling the accounts of both Plotagon Summer Festival and celebrities in Plotagon, then that means that Helena interviewed him twice. And he lied outright to her both times. A person who does that should be trusted by no one. But even I find that unlikely. Remember when I quoted directly from that interview David did with Helena? That is why what he told BRYAN about being celebrities in Plotagon was so serious. You simply cannot do that to anyone and keep their trust, ever. That's why BRYAN reacted so badly to David's claim. And David's response later was a form of backpedaling, denying an earlier assertion as a form of damage control. Even if David had been only joking, it was still a hurtful thing to do, period. The case for the two-faced hypothesis. Point 1. Neither celebrities in Plotagon nor Plotagon Summer Festival ever showed themselves at all until last year, when they were interviewed by Helena, as shown earlier. Indeed, as far as I could tell, no one ever knew their real names beyond the names of their accounts. And in the case of celebrities in Plotagon, it appears we still don't know his real name. More on that later. It is likely that had Helena not started her series of community conversations, we to this day wouldn't know anything about the true identities of the owners of CIP and PSF. Of course, people do have a right to their privacy, but not to the point of outright dishonesty. Point 2. David used his real voice when interviewed by Helena, but CIP spoke with an electronic voice in his interview. I think this point is obvious. Of course, there is nothing wrong with using an artificial voice. I normally do that myself, including in this very video. But I do that because I dislike my natural voice, but that doesn't mean I am trying to diss anyone. Point 3. David is indeed confirmed to use other accounts besides Plotagon Summer Festival, just as he confessed to BRYAN. Here is a clear example in YouTube. Note the date the channel was created. Way back in 2021. Point 4. Celebrities in Plotagon is supposed to be from Chicago, and therefore an American, but in a video he made in reference to the death of Queen Elizabeth II, he referred to her as our queen. She was not a queen of any American, only of her British and Commonwealth subjects. Oops! And who was that commenting on that video? Could this be another of David's accounts? This was made way back in 2016, however. Point 5. Plotacards, said to be yet another account of David, was first introduced to the rest of us by CIP. Point 6. Googling the name Hassan Johnson reveals that this is the name of an actual celebrity, an actor in the New York area, not Chicago. So it is likely that the owner of the Celebrities and Plotagon account stole the identity of this actor. This is the Wikipedia page of the real Hassan Johnson. And this is his Instagram account. Note his real-life appearance. And here is what the Plotagon avatar of Celebrities and Plotagon looks like. Coincidence? Ironic that he was exposing comedy after hours while using a stolen identity himself. Is your mind blown yet? Of course, it is possible that the real actor Hassan Johnson started the Celebrities and Plotagon series as a means of writing what you know. Much as I did in making the Debbie and Carrie show set mostly in my home state of Texas. But why didn't he identify himself as the actual actor in his interview with Helena? That would have been a perfect time to reveal himself and promote whatever acting jobs he might have been doing recently, but he did not. So we really don't know much about these people that we have been so involved with, do we? So let me tell you what will happen as a result of putting out this video. First, David, the creator of the Plotagon Summer Festival, is dead to me. I have already blocked his account on Instagram, and if he tries to contact me through any other account on any other platform, I will block those too. And obviously, I will not take part in any future version of the Plotagon Summer Festival, if by some miracle one is done. Personally, I think the one we did this year should be the last we ever do, because the integrity of that long-term project has been ruined forever. As I see it, David made 3 fundamental mistakes in running the festival this year. First, his telling BRYAN that bullshit claim of him and Celebrities and Plotagon being the same person. Second, his setting the festival on June 8th, which is not even a summer day. The actual summer solstice was on June 20th. By making the festival earlier, he made it difficult for younger Plotagonists to turn in their projects in a timely fashion, because they likely would have been focused on school projects in May. Their having to rush their works for the festival later might have resulted in poor editing and direction. Third, David didn't specify a deadline to turn in projects 2 or 3 weeks before the festival came out, and thus the PSF team had almost no time to assemble the projects. Then again, moving the Plotagon Summer Festival to June 20th might have made it harder for Plotagonists to make and submit projects for the Plotagon Film Festival later, which is a different event, and unlike the other festival, is actually run by the Plotagon company itself. Another good reason to end the Plotagon Summer Festival, in my opinion. And so that concludes my critical analysis of this year's Plotagon Summer Festival and of its creator, David. Shall we move on?